Welcome back, MTG Joe here, and we're here for the return of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. We were waiting for some stats to come in through Untapped.gg. What you see on the screen, it's a companion tool that tracks user win rates on MTG Arena. I could track your own win rates, but it curates all the data and gives us a kind of a snapshot in terms of win rate percentages. If you want to get started with Untapped, the link is in the video description below. If you want to get started, track your own games, and help contribute to the overall data, it's a really helpful tool. But we're going to be looking at this video for standard best of one. We'll be doing best of three standard in upcoming videos. We'll look at Explore, Historic as the data kind of comes in. And this is kind of our first look to see what has changed, what are the new cards to either spruce up existing archetypes or potentially create net new archetypes. I want to preface with this video, it's about a week of the set. People are still accumulating cards. They're waiting for kind of ideas to come in. So while there is some innovation, it's also still fairly early. So I will preface, if you've had a deck like Stock Mono Red, some of the Soldiers decks, the decks that were doing well before seem to still be putting up decent results. So we are not going to be deep diving into like an existing stock list. Really what I want to focus on today is decks that are using some number of new cards, whether it be completely new or some combination. What's kind of been the innovation in those decks to kind of move forward. So that's the preface there. As always, mileage may vary. A deck that works for one person might not work for you, but this is kind of a sample size provided. So we are looking April 18th through to the 24th, Diamond to Mythic rank that you see here, and 100,000 games sample size. So fairly large population that's contributing here. So we'll dive into the stats itself. I will paste all these deck lists in the video description, so don't worry. You can just copy paste it. You don't have to follow at home, write it all down. Just a couple quick things before we jump into the exact details. You see in the top right-hand corner, we have a banner. We have a goal of hitting 10,000 subs on the channel by June. We're at 8296, so 83% of the way there. If you haven't subbed to the channel, it's free, it's easy, helps out the channel. In addition, what I am doing, there's a couple days left in April, but I am donating every single penny I make from YouTube this month to local Toronto-based food banks. So if you could watch the videos, like them, help the algorithm, all that, I'm donating all the money I make to help feed the hungry in my hometown. So enough of that. Let's get it out of the way. Top deck of the week, Mono White Soldiers, 63% win rate, 210 games. So we've seen kind of back and forth, is it Mono White the deck or is it Azorius the deck? And with Mono White, we got the addition of a new card in Dusk Legion Duelist. So it's a 2-mana Vigilance 2/2. Whenever one or more counters are put onto the Duelist, you get to draw a card. This ability notably only triggers once per turn. So this provides some card advantage to a deck that doesn't normally have card advantage. And it's kind of replacing some copies of the Guardian of New Benalia in place. Because you needed more Thalia art, by the way. And the way you kind of put counters on things are with the Siege Veteran. Lets you put a counter each turn, so you can kind of set it up with the 2 cards at every turn. You kind of get an extra draw, which is nice. It also provides you some insurance. There's also the Valiant Veteran that can be cast out of your graveyard to put counters on cards as well. So those are kind of your new draw engine for the deck, playing in a deck that already exists. You're also playing a copy of Archangel Elspeth. So new 4-mana Planeswalker, +1. You get to create a white soldier token with lifelink. Lifelink being quite relevant here. There's a lot of Lord style effects or ways to make things bigger. You pair that with the lifelink, it could help you in those mono red mirrors or like racing situations against other aggressive decks to kind of gain you that advantage. The -2 is another way to put counters on creatures. It also makes them an angel in addition to their other types and gains flying. Flying a good evasive keyword. And then its ultimate lets you return all non-land permanents with CMC mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So in the grindier matchups, you get to just mass reanimate your board. The rest of the deck is going to be cards that existed previously. In Mono White, you get access to Lay Down Arms as a scalable removal spell, pairing that in addition with Brutal Cathar. Your 1-drops are Recruitment Officer to provide you card advantage, Yodian Frontliner, which can be unearthed to get haste, but also buffs up another attacker when it attacks in itself. Thalia for tax, Benalia just as another 2-drop that's a little bit difficult to kill, Valiant as your Lord, and then some copies of Myrel, just a snowbally card, prevents your opponent from playing on your turn, and then just kind of gives you an army of soldiers that come out. You're also playing 4 copies of Mishra's Foundry as a creature land in this particular deck. The next deck up is Esper Legends. So Esper Legends, again, a deck that existed in some capacity, but what we're getting now is a new card in Rona, Herald of Invasion. So this has pushed it to a 62% win rate. With the Herald, it does a couple things for the deck. So it's a 2-mana 1/3. Decent body, lets you block early. And then you can draw and then discard to tap it. So this helps you loot, gets rid of duplicate copies of Legends. But whenever you cast a legendary spell, you get to untap Rona. So you can kind of use this in conjunction with stuff like To Lose, where now whenever you discard a card, it just goes under To Lose. So you get virtual card advantage. You're fixing your draws while also setting it up that if To Lose dies, you draw those cards again. It also self-enables the Raven Man to give you copies of birds each turn. When Rona flips, you can flip it for 5 and 2 life or 6 mana. And then it's a trample 5/5. Whenever a source deals damage to Rona, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand at random. It's a land you can put in play, otherwise you can cast it without paying its mana cost. So a nice little payoff there. So that's kind of the innovation of the deck. Otherwise, it is pretty much your stock Legends deck. You have your Skrelvs, Denix, Ravenmans, Thalias, some Go for the Throats as removal, Rafines, Urtai, Shieldred, and an AO on the top end. Really just taking advantage of both Plaza heroes. And you'll notice there's 27 lands in this deck, but a lot of the spell lands, the channel lands to give you some utility. These are effectively just going to cost 1 mana ideally in this deck, given that you have so many legendaries. So from there, we move to Mono Red Burn. So there's a couple different versions. The stock creature version, this one is the highest win rate and best of 1 of the Burn variants. I did in the best of 3. I got through the metagame challenge. I went 7-0 with a Burn version as well using the new Battle. So you can check out gameplay of that on my channel if you're interested. I can link it as well. But again, if you have stock Mono Red, it seems to still be putting up results. But this list is looking to take advantage of 2 of the new cards. You have Blood Feather Phoenix. It's a 2-mana 2/2 flying, can't block. And then whenever an instant or sorcery deals damage to an opponent or battle, you may pay a red, and then it returns from your graveyard to the battlefield and gains haste. So you're using stuff like Lightning Strike, Play with Fire, or the new Stoke the Flames. New old reprint. So this has got Convoke, so you can tap creatures instead of paying for like part of its costing. So if you tap a red creature, it can also pay for the red mana, so this can effectively be 0 mana, deal 4. This is paired in a deck that's just got like Mechanized Warfare to scale damage. You have Reckless Impulse for card advantage, and then just cheap 1-drops. Voldaren Aperture, Phoenix Chick, Swift Spear, and Kumano. From there, we bounce over to Selesnya Enchantments. And this was a deck that actually helped me get Mythic this month before the set dropped. And what we got in this deck here is a couple new cards. I will say right off the bat, just play 4 of these in the mana base. Seems a little odd to do this configuration, but I would do that. There's also the Pain Land that I would play. This is using Ossification, but you should kind of tweak up these numbers. In addition, you should be playing 4 Generous Visitors for sure in this deck, but just kind of a quick little synopsis there. But we are playing Heliod Radiant Dawn, the new god, flip god. So 4 mana, 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, return target enchantment that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand, so provide some utility there. And then for either 3 and 2 life or 3 and a blue, which in this deck will be 3 and 2 life since you don't produce blue mana, you get to flip into Heliod the Warped Eclipse. A 4/6, you can cast spells as though they had flash, and then spells cost 1 less for each card your opponent's drawn this turn. So a nice way to kind of flash in stuff on your opponent's end steps. Card seems pretty powerful in the shell here. It's also playing the Battle. There's got to be a better way to see these. So let's all turn our heads sideways for a sec. So 3 mana, Invasion of Theros for 4 power battle. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for an aura, god, demigod, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. So this provides some card advantage, helps you find your Heliod. In terms of auras, Ossification would be the tutorable hit. Unfortunately, the Catilda cannot be found. Does this also hit enchantment? No, just aura, god, demigod. So it's worth noting here, you might want to consider just like how you configure, like playing around the strategy, maybe a 1 of Audacity, just being a 1 mana enchantment that can be tutored as well, with it being an aura, just when you need trample, for example. And then it flips into Afara Ever Sheltering when you deal 4 damage to it, and then it has lifelink and indestructible as long as you control at least 3 other enchantments. Whenever another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you get to draw a card, so just some card advantage for the deck. You're pairing that in like your enchantment build, so like Hallowed Haunting, whenever you cast enchantments you get value. Jukai reduces the cost, Kami could come back from your graveyard and gets bigger. Ossification is removal, Spirited Companion is card advantage. Teachings kind of fills your graveyard, helps you find some pieces. You get to put counters on things, and then it flips and gets to eat away at graveyards. This will also kind of work nicely with Iganjo, since you can bring back stuff from your graveyard through the loot ability. And then you have some exile and Touch the Spirit Realm, and then Catilda gets bigger based on the number of enchantments, lifelinker, and then can also be cast and equipped from the graveyard as well. From there, we move to Abzan Legends, legendary decks all around. So this is a 58% win rate deck, and it's playing a very similar strategy in the fact that you're trying to use Plaza of Heroes to get a cost reduction. So you still have your Skrelvs. This version's on Jadar. You have Catilda for card advantage, Malira as protection. This version's not going to give you the card advantage that you would have like with the Rafine to lose combo, but you got some more like Hate Bear style creatures. Glissa can provide you actually card advantage, blow up enchantments, or remove like counters from planeswalkers, bankbusters, stuff like that. Yawgmoth provides card advantage when creatures deal damage. You have Adeline to go wide, Sheoldred, and then our first appearance of Thalia and the Gitrog monster. So 4 mana, 4/4, First Strike Death Touch, so just a lot of annoying creatures to deal with First Strike Death Touch. How that works for those unfamiliar, First Strike deals damage first, so it deals the Death Touch, so it always wins in creature combat. And then you may have an additional land you may play an additional land each turn, and then creatures and non-basic lands your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped, so nice kind of pseudo-tax effect there, and then whenever it attacks, sacrifice a creature or land, and then draw a card. So roundabout ways that you get that card advantage. So even what's really nice is you can stack your triggers ideally to have the Adeline token be generated and then sack that token for card advantage. So there's kind of like a human sub-theme. Are these all Phyrexians? Phyrexian, human. Okay, so you can either name Phyrexian or human with Secluded Courtyard. Kind of an interesting mix there. From there, we go to Golgari Midrange, Golgari Phyrexian-ish. So in this deck, we have like the Glissa, a whole bunch of removal. You have your new Lord and Grafted Butcher, 2 mana, 2/2. That gives other Phyrexians +1/1 power. When it enters the battlefield, your Phyrexians gain Menace till end of turn. And you can, from the graveyard, pay 4 mana, sacrifice an artifact or creature, and return the Butcher to the battlefield at a sorcery speed. So you're playing a bunch of removal early, cut downs, go for the Throat, Shields, Edicts, Tear, Asunder. And then you also have like Bloated Processor, new Phyrexian creature, 3 mana to sack another creature to put a counter on it. And then when it dies, you get to Incubate, which is creating a artifact token that has the counters based on some condition. This one is equal to the number of the power of the Bloated Processor at the time it dies, and you can pay 2 mana and transform it into a creature. There's also Glistening Dawn, 4 mana, incubate twice X, where X is the number of lands you control, so just some big bodies paired with Sheoldred. Gix Command is Sweeper. We got the other Glissa here, Herald of Predation, 5 mana at the beginning of your combat. Choose 1, so you get to incubate 2 twice, so you get 2/2 tokens that can be set up. You can transform all your incubator tokens, and Phyrexians you control gain First Strike and Death Touch. And then we got new Sheoldred. So enters battlefield, opponent sacks a non-creature or a non-token creature or planeswalker. And then if your opponent has 8 or more cards in the graveyard, you can pay 5 mana, flip it into the True Scriptures, deals with one of your opponent's creatures or planeswalkers to kill them. Opponent discards 3 cards and mills, and then you get to Rise of the Dark Realms, reanimate all creatures in all graveyards. Got a copy of the Murex and Blast Zone in there. It's kind of a Golgari midrange deck, like a rock style deck with a Phyrexian sub-theme. The next deck is actually the Rakdos Midrange deck I played during early access. So I was testing out stuff. Having played the deck, I would not play Invasion of Asgul in it. This is kind of just an update to the Rakdos list. What I wanted to use was Chandra's Hope's Beacon that allows you to double instants and sorcery spells you cast. And in play, basically double Invoke Despair in the deck. I'd probably trim down a copy of Sheoldred. A card I was trying out was Invasion of Crothis as a kind of way of playing Brotherhood's End. You're probably better off just playing Brotherhood's End. All things considered, I would trim down to maybe one of these, if not cut it completely. I would probably play Grixis Command or Burn Down the House. And then cut this, play Brotherhood's End, cut these 2, and then play 2 graveyard, the full 4 Graveyard Trespassers in play. But it's pretty much just the Rakdos midrange list that was going around with Chandra to double up on your spells from like the Invoke Despair. 55% win rate deck, which is kind of encouraging that like a deck I threw together during early access. Like, yeah, I know the shell was around, but like I was just messing around with stuff, and if it's making people win at a reasonable rate, kind of cool. Then we have the Grixis deck. It's not doing like super great. This is the Hidetsugu and Kari deck. 54% is decent, but just want to highlight this because this was a popular one during early access. The core of this deck, what you're trying to do is with Hidetsugu and Kari, basically set it up where you've put Explosive Singularity on the top of your library. When this dies, you get to deal 10 damage by showing this, as well as cast it for free and deal 10 damage. This version here is basically just shoehorning the combo into the Grixis shell. The ones that I saw that worked pretty well were like Eldrazi's. It was using like the new Village Rites, things that allow you to prop it off the death trigger, because if your opponent controls when this dies, then you don't necessarily get it. You want to control when it dies. But this does allow you a Chandra's Hope Beacon to just cast this to 20 your opponent through the doubling. So kind of a backup plan there. This might prove to be more consistent and just like play Invoke Despair instead. Very similar to the Rakdos list I just showed you, but you get Voltage Surge, Corpse Appraiser kind of mixed into there as well. And then lastly, we're not going to go over this deck because it's not good, but I just wanted to say people were like, maybe Mono Green's going to be back. I was one of those people who hoped that maybe Mono Green could be back. We got Pelucranos Reborn in Tribute to the World Tree, and it's at a solid 49% win rate. So Mono Green is not back. A lot of the problems it's still encountered, card advantage, dealing with Sheoldred, removal, just stuff of that nature, just hasn't really panned out. So this is more of a warning, kind of heads up. But like I said, we played some decks over the weekend. We were playing best of 3 because of the metagame challenge. I really haven't played much Constructed. So this is also a fun deck if you want to see it. It is the All Will Be One battle deck. So you basically use Chandra to double Storm the Festival cast, try to find All Will Be One, and then all your battles, because they answer with counters with All Will Be One, just like hit your opponent for 5 damage. So it's just a ramp shell with that. This was really, really fun in best of 3. And then, like I said, the mono red burn list I was playing with Invasion of Argantha as a deal 4 played really well. In best of 3, we went 8-1, got like 30 plus packs with it. So all in all, those 2 videos are up on my YouTube as well if you want to catch those full gameplays in best of 3, but variations of both can be brought over to best of 1. Just want more sweepers in the main board of this one if you're going to be playing it in best of 1. So that's it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing, and as always, if you can, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.